Hey there, guys. It's Nolan and Jason.
Howdy.
Here with HVAC SEO Webmasters. And today's topic is going to be 3 HVAC marketing strategies that do not work in 2022. So what we're going to be talking about, number one, is doing GMB or Google My Business work only while ignoring your website entirely. I find it to be a new trend, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's very harmful. Number 2, blogging still. Blogging being something as a content format that's starting not to work as well, but you need real content. And number 3, throwing money at an agency without doing anything at all on your end.
Right.
Not that you don't need an agency, but when you throw money at them and say, work, you dirty webmaster people, and I'm not doing anything because you'd better do your damn job.
Right.
And that's essentially the attitude of that person, right? So number 1, and that one might have sounded a little confusing, but there's a movement for businesses starting now, and I don't know why, because the movement never got finished to where you do a good website, right? Like almost nobody.
We never finished with the one thing. Why are we moving on to the other?
Nobody even did a good website. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, let's not worry about it at all.
It's like replacing your website with your GMB listing, which is crazy in a couple of different ways.
We're not even close to there yet.
Right.
We're a long ways away from those days. So if you don't have a website that's worked on, you have less of a good experience for the Google user. So if you click on a Google ad and they have this horrific little 1-page, 5-page website that never gets worked on, didn't have any content in it, or was duplicate, it's not as good of a place for someone to go and have a good experience on Google. So you tend to have lower rankings because of that. And the algorithm still to this day pulls your page content as evidence that you perform a service for the map to show up or for your company to show up for the website rankings.
Right. It uses the content on your website to rank your GMB. If you have a crap website, by definition, you're harming your GMB.
Yeah. I mean, well, it just, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
What are they supposed to show? And just to go into that a little bit further, I'm going to talk about a couple things on the website itself. So it's great if you're doing, I hadn't talked to you about this, but I mean, we've got too many stuff. We talk about other more interesting stuff, but people do call and they work on their GMB like frantically now and don't do anything else at all. So they'll go on there and do a check-in and tag something, throw up a photo and respond to something and get a review. And I had a guy just, I think it was day before yesterday, think he signed up. I think he's one of the clients. He had a ton of reviews and doesn't show up in ranking. So he's got like 160 reviews in a pretty small town. That won't even always be a lot nowadays and by 2022 here.
Right.
But 160 not showing up in ranking. Well, he is one of them that's up. It's the I don't want nobody knows who he is. It's the pretty boy. The pretty boy.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, with the silent T.
Yes.
Okay. He has like 160.
Wow.
HVAC. Plumber and HVAC combo, actually.
Yeah.
Is 160 in a major market. He's in half of Orange County, like South Orange County, I think he said.
Yeah.
And he's in a town, pretty good sized town there, one of the best markets in the country for an HVAC and a plumber, and is not in factory mapping, doesn't show up. So he wasn't like a hardcore. Well, he was working on all this stuff and they ignored his website.
And he was probably like, I don't know why.
I don't know what's going on. And I went through everything with him and I went through some of these ideas with him and then he signed up. He's probably going to be a great client.
Good move.
And he's going to show, I mean, since he's been trying so people say too, is like, it wasn't him. It was another guy actually that signed up today. This was a different category guy that I just signed up today. And he was wondering why other people show up ahead of him. And he has a ton of reviews too. And I'm like, well, it's not one thing. You know, it's not one thing. You have other things, and he mentioned a couple of people, and I just did a whois on them, whois.com, to see how old the .com was, the URL, and they were 10 years older than him. You know, so it doesn't. So, but someone might, so I can't show up if someone you're missing, you miss the point if you don't get this stuff, is that you can't ignore all the categories, because all the categories is what the algorithm uses to judge how far you show up in ranking.
Right.
How high. And so this guy is going to be a home run success, the guy in Orange County. That's going to be like dropping the mic when he starts doing pins and
if he's this active on GMB, if he transfers that effort over,
it's gonna be crazy.
He's gonna go nuts.
So we know enough of the things to change, but the website is a primary factor. It's the reason the map shows up, keywords show up. It's how Google knows, mostly how Google knows what you do for your services. They don't know what you work on. And the content supports that, the pages support that, the regular work makes a better user experience. And all the combination of all this stuff is what makes the map show up. So people go into Google Maps. They also mistakenly think, this is another problem, and it's maddening, but reports will say that roughly 50% of people go to the map only, and 50% still land and get into the website. However, if you're dealing with HVAC Webmasters, plumbing webmaster, if you're dealing with us, over 50% of people are in organic. Not because they're getting less mapping, because they're doing extremely well with it too. It's because there's so much great content that they've got tons of long tail keywords.
Right.
And they're showing up more in organic because there's so much of it.
And by the way, your map only shows up because of the content on your website.
Yeah.
So that mapping, that might have been a click from mapping or a call off the GMB, but you got that because of the website.
Yeah, and other people will say, no, and I don't ignore my website. I have a bunch of people from another country, a developing nation, slam. Is that more politically correct? Can I say that? Can I mock developing nation?
I think you can get away with that.
I didn't mock your specific developing nation. All developing nations. All right, so they'll pay somebody from a developing nation to do some crappy links to their crappy website and go, oh, I'm sorry. You paid developing nation people to slam
to
bad
actively
links.
Screw up your website.
Yeah. to pay links to point to your crappy website. And so, yeah, Google must be great with that. They're so stupid that they can't figure out that that's what you're doing. So, and that's the other thing. No, I don't ignore it. I just pull all my old 2005 tricks out of my hat. And I pay someone good money to screw them, which will lead into number 3 here in a minute, by the way. And so that number 2, we talked about it a little bit. Blogging is starting not to work.
If I could.
Yeah.
I want to make a point on number 1. I didn't work it in there. On a purely pragmatic standpoint, we already have to rely on Google as the window or the doorway into everything. Do not give them your whole platform. Maintain your website and maintain it well, just so if anything changes, you still have your own platform.
Yeah,
that's just a kind of a logical thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're working on your organic presence, whether it's Google or Facebook or Instagram, YouTube, whatever you're working on, is your brand. And
right.
So I think your thought process is to have that brand and to have it intact and to nurture it and add to content to it.
Yeah, and have some part of it that you 100% control.
It makes people mad, I think, sometimes because of the act of, it makes me mad sometimes to think that we have to put out content like this podcast just to do this work for free. But it's the society, it's the business climate, it's the powers that control marketing that we all accepted, but it's not free content. We're ultimately getting something out of it,
right.
Which is why we're doing it. And you'll ultimately get something out of it too. So try not to look at it like that way. I get why you may not want to spend time on it. It's like, by God, an HVAC company owner, not a podcaster or video creator.
Damn it, Jim, I'm an HVAC technician, not a webkeeper.
What is that? Is that like Star Trek?
Star Trek, it's Bones.
Oh, does he say
Damn it,
that?
Jim, I'm a doctor.
All right. I know. I used to watch Star Trek.
I'm a
again.
nerd.
What was the one with Picard in it? And
That's Star Trek Next Generation.
that was the one that
And they've got the new Picard series where
I
he's
saw that.
an old. That's awesome.
Is it good?
And the next season coming out next year, they're bringing Q back. Woo!
Q. Oh, the Q.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my.
We just got a little nerdier than usual up in here.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah.
You notice I can do that without even doing it. I can just do it.
Well, I can. Not everybody can do that.
Apparently not.
You can do both hands, but right? You got both hands on it.
Vulcan high five.
Anyway. All right. I'm not as big of I got into it a little bit. Like I'm surrounded by people who are like super into all this stuff. I like sci-fi stuff, but just a little bit. I like sci-fi. I like it when people get their butts flipped at it. I don't like it if it's too much reality. That's why I like sci-fi. Like people that like crime dramas. I was like, I don't want to know how.
I can just go hang around downtown if I want to see that.
I don't need to see all that. It bothers me. Okay, so the number 2 is the blogging. It's starting not to work.
Blog is a 4-letter word.
Yeah, it's you need real content. So don't misunderstand the first number 1. You still need the content. If you're going to perform services on HVAC company sites, we'll make pages for all the parts changes out, or coil cleaning, or HVAC capacitor replacement, or I don't know, igniter start stuff. All that stuff. We do a lot of content for an HVAC company.
Coolant refills, everything.
Yeah,
We can't say the brand name anymore.
We on what? On the coolant?
Coolant, the F word.
Why?
Because don't you remember we were using it on sites and the Dow Chemical
really?
cease and desist that you couldn't use.
I don't
Anybody
remember
HVAC knows what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. But
It a client of ours got hammered because we put something on their site.
Yeah, we had to change them all.
Oh well. All right. But yeah, so you're gonna it doesn't mean blogs don't still show up. It doesn't mean you couldn't have a quality one. It means that 99% of blogs written for contractors are poor quality, trying to contrive a keyword out of bogus content.
And when someone says they're going to do 1 a week or 2 a week, that's by there's no way they can do quality content that often about such a narrow subject.
So
it's going to be contrived garbage.
It is, even if it's highly quality contrived garbage.
It could be well written, but it's still contrived garbage.
Well written, high quality contrived garbage. And Google.
I want that on a shirt. Well written, high quality contrived garbage.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it could be our uniform. All of our writers, Jason, they'd all appreciate it. Oh my God! There's a lot that goes.
I hope they don't watch this.
There's a lot that goes into that comment.
Yeah,
it's not. We write content. Like I'll tell a story here about content. So that I'll tell to people, because what is quality content? And I talk about data pins a lot. There's some other stuff you can use, but data pins is the best probably. But I'm partial. So it's when you take a picture of a job, takes 2 minutes, a 12-year-old could use it, and you write a quality caption like, just replaced a Linux air handler with a Linux M30 Wi-Fi thermostat. That's a great caption. So now all of a sudden that HVAC guy now could show up for Linux air handler replacement in his city and little general area region, or not region, but metro.
Yeah.
And Wi-Fi thermostat, or Linux M30 Wi-Fi thermostat, or M30 Wi-Fi thermostat. That one caption with a couple of cities around him is now possibly dozens of keywords he has. And that's an exact example of one from one of our best clients that's an HVAC company out of Georgia. And he does a phenomenal job of these unique captions with data pins, with photos of jobs, and it grabs a geo coordinate, like a digital hand raise tells Google where he is, validates the map area, and expands content in a phenomenal way, right?
Right.
In just a phenomenal way. I had a second part of that, but that's the type of content. You need the initial pages for your categories, maybe some city pages, but you don't just throw up blogging for no reason.
Right.
Right.
It's going to be repetitive or irrelevant very quickly.
Yeah, and you're going to start to get some penalty out of it, depending on how far you go. And I think the penalty is going to be pushing up as the years go on. So,
well, it's important to know that Google actually has an incentive to de-emphasize blogging, because the more blogs are thrown out there, the more work they have to do to crawl them and evaluate them, and
pay money to store that content.
Yeah, and store them and everything else. So they have an incentive to de-emphasize it and not show blogs. It's better for them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was, that was the story I was going to tell. So if there's 100 websites being written this month, I don't know if I've ever gone over this with you, but so this is a hypothetical situation that's probably pretty accurate. So say this month in the United States, there's 100 HVAC websites being written. And let's just assume, which this is a stretch, but let's assume that they're all by good quality digital marketing agencies. That's why was that? Let's assume that they're all by. So there are 100.
They can't all be good because we're not doing all of it.
Right. One of them, 5 of them.
In a month, we could do 4 or 5.
Yeah. 4 or 5 of them are great, and they're all written uniquely by good companies, and they all had a good amount of service pages in the mix and city pages, right? So they had 10 pages of services for furnace and air conditioner replacement and parts types and mini splits and indoor air quality and all that
Brands or, whatever.
And then they had 10 city pages and they all went up. And Google's like, oh, wow, you followed the rules. There's no copyright infringement here. You wrote unique content. Now, all 100 of those would be pretty similar content.
Yeah.
So the same general content went on them. So, but Google's rules were followed. And you can start to see why. And then on top of that, wait a minute, Nolan, I paid the best money. I did the best. And now I add blogging. So now you take that generalized better than average, but average content that's essentially the same. And then you add blogging to it and begin to degrade it further. Right. And so when you add something like data pins into it, you start talking about Linux air handlers and Linux M30 Wi-Fi thermostats or this brand or that part and this thing. And in HVAC, it's huge. You might just have 2 or 3 brands that you install, but you replace all the brands in the market. So you can start to talk about all those brands and all those parts. It's crazy how much stuff there is. All the new allergens and the COVID stuff and everything else.
And none of it's contrived because it's literally something you did that day.
It's legitimate stuff that the technician on the field or the owner of the company is writing, which is highly technical data that the writers of the 100 agencies don't even know.
Right.
So that was...
the writers are writers. They're not HVAC techs.
They're good.
They're good at what they do.
We have good writers. Most people don't. We have an editor. We have a creative director. We have a proper writing structure. The cynicism that runs deep on us laughing about what was the statement? I can't remember. What was it?
It's a stretch that it's all being done well.
No, the shirt, the T-shirt.
Oh, the well-written, high-quality, contrived garbage.
But so they had to, and the reason it's funny, and I hope none of them.
Thank God, I hope they don't.
I hope they don't watch it. But the reason it's funny, and we've never actually talked about this.
You guys do not write garbage.
Yeah, we don't write garbage, but there is pain and irony in the fact that the writer who got the degree has to sit in here or anywhere, the humanity of writing for an HVAC or a plumber over and over and over again.
Yeah.
The same content in different ways so that it's not copied, because that's what Google set up to be done.
Yeah.
So
and it is the same content, because how many different ways can you talk about
just to be clear with this audience, it is different as graded by Copyscape through our company. Yeah. It's an unintended consequence of Google probably primarily not wanting to partake in copyright law violation.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So they don't know if they see copied content, if the company who wrote it owned the original version of it. And so early on, they made this severe penalty against copied content. Yeah. Indirectly, it ruined the lives
of a whole lot of people. I employ several of them. And I feel sorry for them.
It's okay. I think it's better than other stuff that they could do, but it's an unintended consequence of this beast of marketing that requires additional content to be added regularly. But even if you add regular content, you start to see how bad all this stuff is. We write the highest quality content that we can, but when you add real content in the field, that we didn't finish that. So as that goes in, you take a picture up to 6 photos, you write that caption about Linux air handlers and Linux M30 Wi-Fi thermostats and such that you did. And you have this phenomenal little piece of content that then goes on the AC replacement page and begins to make those 400 words that we wrote that was done as well as we could have, which we're, by the way, very appreciative that these writers do for you guys, and y'all don't appreciate it, but Jason and I know how hard it is for them. We do. We're appreciative. We know how difficult could it be to do that over and over again. Yeah. And they don't only just write content. There's all sorts of little details that they have to check off. And then they make that unique content for you, and then you really take it up to another level with technical stuff that doesn't have to be complete sentences. He's still wanting to laugh about this.
I tell people to write complete sentences. He doesn't think
doesn't need complete sentences, doesn't need proper grammar, just needs to be.
But it's good information.
Yeah, it's information that Google's literally never had before.
Right.
In your market. Anyway.
It's kind of like if you were doing regular social media posting of your activities, like if you're an HVAC guy and you like to get on Facebook and say, hey, we did this today. That's great. Except a Facebook post never comes up first in organic because Facebook is a closed system.
Right.
If you do it on data pins and put it on your website instead of on Facebook, all of a sudden that page it's on can come up first in organic.
And by the way, it posts to Facebook as well as a post.
That does that too. And to Google.
Google post as well. But now you start to see how I say that maybe you show up for more organic than mapping, more organic than Google My Business when you have that type of content. Can you imagine how many thousands of long tail keywords that you have? And yes, people type them in and search for this stuff. And now all of a sudden you have this thriving website that's just a beautiful thing and can get tons of clicks. And now you see why blogging's no good. And now you see how the whole industry, most people don't even get sparse content, copied content, no content. We write great content, but it's still the same content that other people write that was great.
Right.
And same topics.
Yeah.
You add
it's not like, it's not plagiarized, it's not verbatim the same, but it's how many different ways can you talk about, a certain AC unit or whatever.
How many different ways can you talk about AC repair?
Yeah, it's going to be repetitive.
And so people, when people called 5 years ago, would say, we make great websites that are mobile friendly and all this stuff. And I may go over SSL certificates now or speed, new stuff. Yeah. And people will say, do y'all do mobile friendly websites? So of course we do mobile friendly websites. We've been doing mobile friendly websites for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
So when we talk about it now is I look at this stuff as high quality base items, and people probably take it wrong. Like when I say that, like you do base level work.
It's basic.
No, we do the best practices on items that are now basic that have been around so long.
Fundamental. Not basic. Fundamental.
There you go. Thank you, Jason. So fundamental work is extremely high quality, and then you add extra stuff onto it like data pins or speed or SSL and make sure other best practices are up to date. That makes a great web presence. That's great content. That's a great integrated effort.
And we've seen it work with our clients. We've seen the metrics to prove this over the past 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's insane. Okay, so number 3 kind of heads into some of this, or is it
kind of segues pretty directly.
It does. Throwing money at an agency without doing any work on your end. So that you being the HVAC or plumbing company saying, you damn dirty web geeks, you damn dirty web geeks, do what I paid you to do, and by God, get it done. And that is the attitude of what percentage of companies out there?
20%.
20%. So
It's getting smaller.
it's getting smaller, but 1 out of 5 of you is incorrigible and will not do any work on your end. Here's the problem with it. Do you still need high quality web services and SEO? Yes.
Absolutely.
Can Google get the proper signaling without any input on your part? No,
Nope.
cannot. Because
Since we launched Data Pins, I have fielded the call several times from that 1 in 5 who, when I explained how Data Pins works and why they should use it and how they should use it, they would say, well, it sounds like you want me to do all the work. I'm like, no. What I want you to do is pull your phone out, which you probably already have in your hand, and spend 1 to 2 minutes on each job doing this little thing that we enabled by building you a great website, maintaining it, and spending a year of development on this software that makes all this stuff sing.
Right.
But some participation is required now. It's just,
Gotta get
there's some
reviews.
information that has to come from you.
You got to get reviews. You got to ask for them. Data Pins texts and emails them. You have to go on and do your social media. We can help with social media ad spend, but you can't personalize it. It's the name of it. It's social, and it means personal stuff. And there's certain things that have to have some client participation. You don't need social media to show up on Google, though. You really don't. The signaling might help you organic a little bit, but you don't have to have it.
There's debate on that. We don't even know how much it helps.
Yeah, the only thing that we think helps is the direct clicks from the platform into it, because they can count where it came from.
Yeah, because the stuff you post on Facebook, Twitter too, they're both closed platforms, so Google doesn't really crawl those things.
They're asked not to be crawled most of the time, right? Yeah. And so they can see a direct link out of it or click out of it, but there's some benefit. But you need to do a few things. Data Pins is something to participate in. There's a desktop version of Data Pins, so there's other ways to use it. But if you don't do a few things on your end, you're not going to get all the signals that you need to succeed today online. You have to have something. It's so old school, frankly, to say, I'm done. I'm not going to do anything. You do it all. Yeah. It's an old school. Whoever says that's going to fail. Anybody who succeeds does a little work on their end and needs to be accepting of it on some level. You don't have to do everything, but you need to do a few things.
Like I said, in every one of these cases, we've done most of it. We're asking for a very small
yes, we have done
contribution.
We have done most of it already. We're not asking for much, but somebody adds a little bit of support on their side, and it's a big deal. So let's recap it. The 3 things that we're talking about for this is not to ignore your website itself. And to focus on one thing. Remember the stories we told? These are all real stories, and frankly, there's hundreds, if not thousands more of them. I do all this and I don't show up. It's like you do one category.
You did
of
these
stuff.
2 things, but you didn't do these 100 things.
Correct. You literally, part of it, us or somebody else, I don't even care. This is free advice. It's a podcast. Someone's going to do hundreds of them. We have 200 little details checked off during just production, right? A new client site set up through the team, 200 things done. Everything from citations to URL structuring and SSLs and speed and
all kind of
it goes
things.
On and on. They all get graded, and that's how you show up. It's accumulation of grades. That is SEO. If you don't see yourself showing up, you're performing poorly on multiple ones, not just one.
Right.
Blogging is starting not to work. It's trash content and contrived any way you shake it. You need real content, like we talked about. Linux air handlers with Linux M30 Wi-Fi thermostats. You can put into a caption with photos and a digital hand raise as to where you were. Is a really great start on that. To tag the individual pages will expand greatly. And number 3, get involved a little bit. And part of that other deal is, don't look at your agency like you may not ever understand everything that we do, but we don't have to be villainized in the process of you're not understanding.
We're actually on your side, believe it or not.
And frankly, in our case, our prices are so good that that's part of the reasons we do a good deal on it, so that somebody can hang around and go, I don't understand everything going on, but I participate where I can, and my results are great. I'm happy,
Right.
And that's good enough for me these days. We don't have to have a thank you anymore, right?
It's a good thing.
Just somebody, right?
No, we get some.
We get a few, but it is confusing, and that's why people listen to it. And if you're an agency listening or someone wanting to start an agency, do the best job you can. You know what advice I give people all the time on our training material and stuff? Know your category well and know your client's category well,
Right.
And then if you know those things, the chance of unethical behavior on your side is going to be low, and the chance of happiness from the client's going to be high, and your ability to communicate with the client's going to be a good thing as well.
Right. Definitely.
So that's a whole different podcast, so man.
Yes. I could go on and on about communication all by itself.
All right, guys.
Take it easy.
See ya.